Before the flood came, before the first drop of rain touched the earth, an angel arrived. Not to comfort, not to pray, to deliver a message so cold it left no room for mercy. Hide yourself, the end is already moving. His name was Uriel, and what he carried was not a warning. It was notification of a sentence already written, already signed, already sealed in the courts above. He did not come to offer choices. The choices were gone. He came because the verdict was done, and someone had to survive long enough to remember it. Uriel means the light of God, but in the oldest surviving texts, this light does not guide you home. It does not heal the frightened. It does not warm the lost. It opens the sealed record. It forces the world to look at what was found inside, and what was found inside is why the old world ended. Chapter 1. The Light That Exposes. To understand what Uriel actually is, you need to go back to the moment the earth itself became a courtroom. In 1st Enoch, one of the oldest apocalyptic texts ever discovered, the Watchers descend, 200 angels, bound by a sworn oath, led by their commander, Semjaza. They cross the boundary between heaven and earth. They take human wives. They release forbidden knowledge into the world, weapons, sorcery, the reading of omens, secrets that were never meant to leave heaven, and the damage spreads like fire through a dry field. The earth fills with violence. The Nephilim, giants born of angels and humans, walk the land, enormous, insatiable, consuming everything around them. The cries of the earth rise upward. The holy angels look down. They see the evidence, and they bring the case before the throne of the Most High. Here's the detail every popular retelling misses. This is not divine rage without structure. This is not punishment that arrives randomly. This is a legal proceeding, vast, precise, and unfolding above human history with perfect memory. The corruption of Azazel is named. The authority of Semjaza is named. Every violation, every broken boundary, every consequence on earth entered into the record. Before judgment falls, everything is identified with a precision colder than any wrath could produce. And this is exactly where Uriel belongs. Not beside vague comfort, not beside wisdom as gentle metaphor, beside revealed consequence. He is the angel who stands inside a system where nothing remains secret once heaven chooses to look. Every hidden teaching becomes testimony. Every broken boundary becomes evidence in a court that never forgets. His light is the lamp held over the crime, after the verdict has already been written. Think about what that actually means. When Uriel arrives at Noah's door, the flood is not approaching as a possibility. It is not a conditional threat. The sky is still intact, the fields are still green, the cities are still alive. But the sentence is already moving through heaven, descending toward the earth like something with no remaining obstacle. Uriel does not arrive to debate. He does not offer conditions. He arrives with evacuation instructions, for one man, from a world that has already lost its case. Hide yourself. The end is approaching. The earth will not endure. That is not mercy. That is what mercy looks like when reversal is no longer possible. It makes Uriel more frightening than any angel of destruction. A destroyer looks like rage. You can see it coming. You can recognize it by the fire on the horizon. Uriel looks like certainty, and certainty does not raise its voice. It only needs to arrive early enough for one witness to understand what is happening. But the flood is only the beginning of what these texts reveal about him, because what he guards next, no one in the popular angel tradition ever talks about. Chapter 2. The verdict was already moving. Imagine the moment Enoch is taken beyond the known world, not in a symbolic dream, not in a vision someone remembers vaguely in the morning. Enoch is physically guided by Uriel through regions where the architecture of creation stops working. There is no sky above, no earth beneath, no safe direction for the human mind to orient itself. He crosses what the text calls places without firmament, edges of reality where the rules that hold the visible world together become visible for the first time. And then the burning mountains appear, stars. But not the stars you know, not distant lights arranged for poets and calendars. These are cosmic beings, held inside confinement, blazing with a light they can no longer aim or control. They overstepped their appointed order. They arrived at the wrong time, crossed the boundary their creator had set for them, and now they are imprisoned here. Enormous, ancient, burning in chains beneath the visible world. Uriel walks beside Enoch and does not flinch. He is not shocked. He is not grieving for the imprisoned stars. He explains, calmly, precisely, why the stars are bound, and why their brilliance means nothing in this place. They transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising. They did not come at their proper times. Even the cosmos is answerable. Even light itself can be imprisoned when light disobeys. That is the second horror inside Uriel's name, and almost no one includes it in the story, because it means the universe is not a romantic open space full of endless possibility. It is regulated, measured, and answerable to the one who made it. But Enoch's journey does not end at the burning stars. What comes next is where the real architecture of judgment is revealed. Chapter 3. The Angel over Tartarus. First, Enoch names Uriel as the angel placed over two things simultaneously, over the world and over Tartarus. Not wisdom, not light in a comfortable sense, not a warm guide for wandering souls. Over Tartarus, the prison beneath the structure of creation. Enoch is shown what this place actually looks like. Not described vaguely, not referenced as a distant concept. Shown, a prison for angels, not fallen humans, not symbolic sinners. Angels, immortal beings, held in an abyss that descends beyond any measurement the human mind can apply. The walls are formed from fire. The depth is described with a precision that leaves no room for metaphor. This place has coordinates in the cosmology of First Enoch. It has depth. It has a gate, and Uriel knows the gate. The Watchers wanted access to what was forbidden. They taught humanity to reach upward, to unlock, to know, to break the line between what belonged to heaven and what was permitted on earth. Now, they wait in the architecture built to answer exactly that decision. They cross the boundary between heaven and earth, and the boundary closed behind them like stone. Uriel understands the lock because he was part of how it was forged. He does not stand at the gate as a symbol or a poetic guardian. He stands there as the function, the angel assigned to the places where the cosmic system shows its true structure. Modern angel stories want to give you choirs and radiant wings and harmless songs of devotion. What the oldest surviving texts describe is something else entirely, a cosmic legal and penal system. Heaven does not only have music, it has records, measurements, gates, and prisons. It has regions where even immortal beings wait without release. Because their case was concluded, the door was shut, and Uriel is the one who holds what seals it. Chapter 4. Heaven has a prison. This is the part that separates the original texts from everything built on top of them. The ancient imagination of heaven is not romantic. It is not an infinite sky full of soft light and harmless song. It is structured, governed, and it has places where mercy has a boundary, where the most you can receive is the knowledge of why your case is already closed. First, Enoch does not describe judgment as a vague mood or a feeling of divine disappointment. It describes it as geography, a chasm, a sealed region, a place with precise depth and no exit built into its design, no hidden passage, no appeal window, no procedural route back to light. And Uriel is not disturbed by this, he is not in conflict about it. This is his office. This is what his function was designed to serve. And this is the distinction that makes him something fundamentally different from every dark figure in mythology. A demon destroys out of hatred. You can negotiate with hatred. You can appeal to pride, to hunger, to ancient grievance. Uriel does not hate anything. He only certifies what the record already contains. He arrives, he reads the file, he confirms the sentence, and then he waits at the gate with a patience that has no end. because the beings inside are not scheduled for release. That is not evil. That is something far colder than evil has ever managed to be. Chapter 5. The Name That Became Too Dangerous. Later tradition tried to soften what Uriel actually is. He became wisdom, a flame held gently in an open hand, a guide for uncertain souls, a warm presence at the edge of human understanding. Those images are not entirely wrong in every tradition, but they are dangerously incomplete. They leave out the flood warning. They leave out the prison beneath creation. They leave out the guide who explains why immortal beings are bound. They leave out the light that does not rescue the condemned. And then something sharper happens in the Latin West, centuries after these texts were written. In 745 CE, the Council of Rome under Pope Zachary addressed what the Church called dangerous angel devotion. The concern was not angels in general. Angels were never denied. The concern was uncontrolled names, apocryphal figures being invoked with too much directness, too much specificity, in ways that authorized channels had not approved. Michael survived. His name is inside canonical scripture. Gabriel survived. His messages appear in recognized texts. Raphael survived through the Book of Tobit's accepted status. But Uriel, connected to Apocrypha, to judgment cosmology, to the prison of stars and sealed knowledge behind creation, was pushed outside authorized Latin devotion. Not erased, something stranger than that. Quarantined, kept close enough to haunt the margins, far enough to create unease in anyone who asked the wrong questions. His name surfaces in the gaps, in Ethiopian scripture, in Eastern Orthodox tradition, in esoteric manuscripts, in the writings of readers who could not stop looking once they found him. And every time his name surfaces, he is standing in the same place. At the flood, at the abyss, at the prison of angels, at the sealed boundary between what the human mind can endure and what waits beyond that line. A name becomes more powerful when it is not denied completely. It is left in the borderlands, where only certain readers keep finding it again, and where the ones who find it are never quite the same after. Chapter 6. The Light After Appeal. Here is the final form of Uriel. Not wisdom, not protection, not the fourth archangel you forgot to include in the popular list. The function that exists where certainty has replaced all remaining possibility. In the second book of Esdras, another text most people have never opened, Uriel appears one final time. He stands before Ezra, who is grieving, who is asking the questions every human eventually reaches, about suffering, divine silence, and whether anything in the order of heaven can be appealed. And Uriel's response is not comfort. It is a challenge. Weigh the fire for me. Measure the wind. Call back the day that has already passed. If you cannot understand the world you live inside, the weight of a flame, the direction of a single breath, then how will you measure the ways of the one who made it? How will you appeal to a court whose procedures you cannot read? How will you argue with a verdict written in a language your mind does not have access to? That is the final horror inside Uriel's name. Not violence, not darkness that hunts you, not destruction in a mythological landscape. Exposure, the kind that enters every sealed room, the kind that removes every shadow, the kind that makes denial impossible, not through cruelty, but through pure, unbearable clarity. Uriel does not bring light to make you feel safe. He brings light to show that the trial already happened. The evidence was recorded. The record was opened. The sentence was delivered. It was delivered before you knew your name was in the room. And by the time Uriel arrives, the door of appeal has already closed. If Uriel was only wisdom, this would be easy to leave behind. But if he was heaven's verdict bearer, what else has been quietly softened into comfort? What other name was buried deep enough that only certain readers keep finding it? Write the angel you think heaven would hide most carefully in the comments below. The archive stays open.